Welcome back to Throttle Tribe. The 1980s were a wild time for motorcycles. Companies took big risks, pushed boundaries, and redefined performance. Some bikes became legends, while others faded into obscurity. Today, we're looking at 7 of the most legendary motorcycles of the 1980s. Number 7. The Kawasaki GPZ900R. The Kawasaki GPZ900R wasn't just a motorcycle, it was the motorcycle. The undisputed king of the 80s. If motorcycles had proms, this one would be wearing the crown while the others sulked in the parking lot. At its heart was a revolutionary 908cc inline-4 engine, delivering a jaw-dropping 115 horsepower. And it moved. Not just fast, hold on for dear life fast. With a top speed of 151 miles per hour, it was the first road bike to break the 150-mile barrier, faster than most cars of its time and definitely faster than your grandmother expected you to go. But the GPZ900R wasn't just a rocket, it was an intelligent rocket. Kawasaki worked some serious magic by lowering the engine in the steel frame, improving weight distribution, and giving it handling so precise it made other bikes feel like they had wobbly shopping cart wheels. It also came packed with cutting-edge features: 16-inch front and 18-inch rear wheels, air suspension, and anti-dive forks, all designed to keep you glued to the road as you slice through traffic like a fighter jet on 2 wheels. And that full fairing? It wasn't just for looks, it was a game changer. It sliced through the wind so efficiently that even Mother Nature had to respect it. The GPZ didn't just go fast, it looked fast even when parked. Oh, and then there was Top Gun, the movie where Tom Cruise played a hotshot pilot who defied authority, broke the rules, and rode around on this exact bike. The GPZ900R didn't just appear in the film, it stole the show. Maverick had his jets, but on the ground, the GPZ900R ensured he had the best ride possible. Fast, smooth, and decades ahead of its time, the GPZ900R wasn't just a motorcycle, it was the blueprint for the modern superbike. If you wanted the best of the 80s, this was it. Number 6. Yamaha VMAX. Let's talk about the Yamaha VMAX, the motorcycle that looked at the laws of physics and said, nah, I'll do my own thing. This wasn't just another 1980s bike, this was the 80s bike, the two-wheeled equivalent of a muscle car that spent way too much time in the gym and almost no time worrying about safety. This beast didn't appear overnight. Yamaha went full mad scientist, building prototype after prototype, each more powerful than the last. The result? A machine cranking out 143 horsepower with absolutely no concern for your personal well-being. This wasn't just power, it was pure pandemonium on wheels. At its heart was a V4 engine, borrowed from Yamaha's big, comfy touring bike, the Venture Royale. But Yamaha didn't just copy and paste, they tuned it like a crazed engineer fine-tuning a death ray. Bigger valves, lighter pistons, higher lift cams, every component was reworked to do one thing: go ridiculously fast. Then came Yamaha's secret weapon, the V-Boost system. Below 5,700 RPM, the engine behaved almost civilized. But the moment you hit that magic number, boom! Servo motors opened hidden intake passageways, injecting extra fuel and turning the VMAX into a fire-breathing dragon. It was like no S, but without a button. Just raw, uncontrollable power every time you twisted the throttle. Of course, all that power came with, let's say, some challenges. The 600-pound dry weight meant handling wasn't exactly graceful. The massive rear tire? Despite its size, it struggled to put all that power down from a standstill. Sure, it could blast through the quarter mile in 10.89 seconds, but it relied on sheer brute force rather than finesse. But let's be real, nobody bought a VMAX to set lap records. They bought it to own stoplights. And the look? Pure intimidation. Those fake air scoops didn't actually do anything, but they sure looked mean. The low, stretched-out stance? A warning to anyone dumb enough to challenge it. This bike didn't need fairings or flashy graphics, it had presence. In the end, the Yamaha VMAX wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement. It was the 80s, distilled into 2 wheels and an absurd amount of horsepower. If you wanted something safe and practical, you bought a Honda. If you wanted to scare yourself senseless every time you twisted the throttle, you bought a VMAX. Number 5. Honda VFR 750R RC30. Let's be clear, the Honda RC30 wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a legend on 2 wheels. Wrapped in speed, dusted with titanium, and engineered to racing perfection, this machine defined the 1980s superbike era. If the 1880s had steam engines and top hats, the 1980s had the RC30, a motorcycle so magnificent that grown men wept into their leather jackets. At the heart of this beast was a V4 engine borrowed but significantly refined from the VFR 750F. Honda, in its infinite wisdom, decided that wasn't enough. They cranked up the engineering to an almost obsessive level. The cams were tightened to reduce friction losses by 40%. The inlet tracks were straightened for optimal airflow, allowing air to rush in like a tornado. And to top it off, a 4x2x1 exhaust system freed up the right side for lightning-fast pit stops. Now let's talk about the Big Bang firing order. Instead of a typical firing sequence, the RC30's engine went full chaos mode with a 360-degree crank, resulting in off-corner traction sharper than a samurai blade. Titanium connecting rods replaced traditional steel because, well, steel is for peasants. Race-spec pistons ensured throttle response quicker than your uncle at a BBQ. In stock form, this beast pumped out 110 horsepower, but with race kit modifications that number could soar to 145. But the numbers don't tell the full story. The true magic of the RC30 was how it felt. The 6-speed close-ratio gearbox was designed for pure racetrack dominance, with a first gear so tall it could reach 90 miles per hour before you even thought about shifting. A slipper clutch ensured aggressive downshifting wouldn't send you into the shadow realm, and the handling, light, accurate, and razor-sharp, like carving corners with a laser-guided missile. Then there was the sound. That flat bark from the exhaust was pure eargasm. If you weren't pretending to be Joey Dunlop every time you twisted the throttle, you were doing it wrong. Even with just 110 horsepower, this lightweight marvel could effortlessly hit 155 miles per hour. The RC30 wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a masterpiece, a two-wheeled flex from Honda that screamed, "We are better than you." And honestly, they were right. Nothing from the 80s even came close. If you were lucky enough to ride one, congratulations. You've officially peaked. If not, well, you can always stare at photos and dream. Number 4, Yamaha FZR600 Genesis. The Yamaha FZR600, also known as the best 80s sport bike to ever hit the pavement. Yes, I said it. And if you disagree, you've probably never ridden one. It's the late 80s. Big hair, synth music, and motorcycles that looked like they came straight out of a sci-fi movie. Enter the Yamaha FZR600, a middleweight bike that made everything else look outdated. Now, let's get to the fun part, the engine. Underneath that sleek bodywork sat a 599cc, 37 cubic inch, liquid-cooled, 4-stroke inline-4 beast that cranked out 91 horsepower at 10,500 RPM and 65 Nm, 48 lb-ft of torque at 8,500 RPM. In simple terms, it pulled like a freight train but was still forgiving enough to push to the limit without biting your head off. Braking? This thing could stop on a dime. Up front, dual 298mm discs with twin-piston calipers, and in the rear, a 214mm disc with a single-piston caliper. Translation: it had all the stopping power you'd need when coming in hot. But Yamaha didn't just throw some fairings on a bike and call it a day. No, they went all in. The FZR had full fairings, dual round headlights that looked like the eyes of a robotic cheetah ready to pounce, a functional windscreen, a solo seat with an optional passenger cover, because let's be honest, that back seat wasn't winning any comfort awards, and an upswept single exhaust system that made sure everyone heard you coming. And let's not forget the lightweight 3-spoke wheels, pure 80s perfection. Now let's talk suspension, because trust me, you'd need it while carving up back roads like a caffeinated squirrel. Up front, 41mm adjustable telescopic forks with 130mm of travel, giving you a smooth ride even when dodging potholes. In the rear, an adjustable monoshock with 115mm of travel, meaning it could handle whatever rough roads your city threw at it. And the weight? The FZR was a featherweight missile, tipping the scales at just under 400 lbs. It was quick, predictable, and as smooth as that one guy in your friend group who never botches a karaoke night. Over time, it became a legend. If you're lucky, you might still find one today. And if you do, grab it. Nothing screams 80s grandeur like an FZR 600 tearing down the road at full throttle. Number 3, 1985 Suzuki GSX-R 750. Heavy, sluggish, and shaped like rolling refrigerators. That's how sport bikes used to be. Then, like a rock star crashing a dive bar, Suzuki introduced the GSX-R 750, a bike so revolutionary that everything else suddenly felt like a dad's commuter scooter. Suzuki wasn't messing around. They basically took their race bike, slapped on a headlight and said, "Here, try not to kill yourself." It featured a full fairing designed with aerodynamics tested in wind tunnels, rather than just a guy sticking his head out of a moving car. The futuristic aluminum frame weighed less than a toddler, and its high-revving inline-4 engine screamed louder than an 80s glam metal band. Let's talk numbers. The GSX-R 750 packed a 749cc, 45.7 cubic inch, 4-cylinder engine producing 100 horsepower. That might not sound like much today, but back then it was like Suzuki had bolted a jet engine onto a bicycle. Thanks to Suzuki's advanced oil cooling system, this beast ran cooler than the fawns, with oil jets preventing the pistons from melting into a sad puddle of aluminum, and the weight, a mere 395 pounds, dry. That's lighter than some modern 600cc bikes. At the time, most 750cc machines tipped the scales at well over 440 pounds. But the GSX-R wasn't just another sport bike. It was a full-fledged race bike with a license plate. Riding one felt like cheating. The aluminum frame delivered razor-sharp handling, flat-slide carbs ensured instant throttle response, and the aggressive fairings made you look like a pro, even if you'd barely passed your motorcycle test last week. But why is this bike truly legendary? Because it changed everything. Every sport bike that followed took notes. Lighter frames, oil-cooled motors, race-inspired styling. It all started here. Without the GSX-R 750, modern sport bikes might still be overweight, bloated machines, and we'd all be stuck riding two-wheeled station wagons. So, if you ever see one in the wild, bow your head in reverence. The GSX-R 750 isn't just an 80s classic, it's the father of modern sport bikes. Number 2, Suzuki Katana. It's the early 80s. You've got a killer mullet, your Walkman is blasting Van Halen, and then boom! Suzuki drops the GSX 1100S Katana at the Cologne Motorcycle Show, like a rock star smashing a guitar on stage. But this wasn't just another motorcycle, it was a statement. The Katana wasn't only designed to look cool, oh no, its performance was just as bold as its appearance. Suzuki packed a 108.3 cubic inch inline-4 engine under the fairing, creating a bike that wasn't just fast, it was hold on for dear life fast. Back then, Suzuki proudly labeled it the world's fastest production bike, and honestly, who were we to argue? Your only real competition was a fighter jet, or maybe an extremely aggressive cheetah. This motorcycle looked like it had been designed by a master craftsman with a vision for the future. Its sharp, precise lines made it resemble a finely honed blade rather than just another two-wheeled machine. The bodywork sliced through the air with minimal resistance, while its aggressive fairings made conventional motorcycles look downright ordinary in comparison. Every detail was purposefully crafted to enhance both aerodynamics and visual impact. But the Katana's innovation wasn't just skin deep. The instrument cluster was meticulously designed, blending functionality with futuristic aesthetics. The synthetic suede seat, a rare touch at the time, wasn't just about comfort, it reinforced the bike's avant-garde identity. The Katana didn't just outperform its competition, it reshaped motorcycle design. It proved that high-performance sport bikes didn't have to stick to traditional rounded aesthetics. Instead, they could be sharp, aggressive, and still highly functional. That revolutionary approach left a lasting impact, with traces of its influence still visible in modern motorcycle design. While today's Katanas feature cutting-edge technology and engineering advancements, they all owe their existence to the original masterpiece from the early 1980s. And let's not forget, Suzuki milked the Katana name for all it was worth, creating variants ranging from 750cc to 125cc. Because, why should only massive bikes have all the fun? If you had two wheels and a pulse, Suzuki had a Katana for you. So, is the original GSX 1100S the best 80s motorcycle? That's not even a question. The Katana-wielding speed demon and futuristic dream machine defined an era. It didn't just make an impact, it carved its place into motorcycle history. Before we move on, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss out on more exciting motorcycle content every week. Number 1. Kawasaki Vulcan. It's the mid-1980s, big hair, loud music, and an unexpected twist in the motorcycle world. The US decides to impose a tariff on Japanese motorcycles with engines over 700cc. But Kawasaki, being the innovators they are, responds with a clever workaround. They make the engine exactly 699cc, 43 cubic inches, and call it a day. Thus, the Vulcan VN 700A was born, dodging tariffs like a biker swerving around potholes. But let's not get caught up in bureaucracy. What really makes this bike legendary? The Vulcan wasn't just Kawasaki's first cruiser, it was their first V-twin. A milestone as significant as Michael Jordan's first slam dunk or the first time bacon was added to a cheeseburger. This was history in the making. And just like a great burger, the Vulcan was built to last. Equipped with a shaft drive, it eliminated the hassle of messy chains, and its sharp styling even made Harley riders do a double take. And let's not forget the rare VZ750 model, which added even more chrome, because why not flex a little against the competition? When the US repealed the tariff in 1986, Kawasaki wasted no time. They unleashed the Vulcan 750, now with a 749cc, 45 cubic inch engine, finally allowing the bike to reach its full potential, like a caged beast being set free. But this bike was more than just numbers. It had style, comfort, and a smooth, reliable ride that kept riders coming back for decades. Kawasaki kept the Vulcan in production with only minor tweaks because, honestly, why mess with perfection? Even today, those who owned a VN700A often hesitate to part with it, and if they do, it's usually to upgrade to a Vulcan 800 or 1500, though deep down, they'll always miss their old VN700A. So, why is this the best 80s bike? Because it was a rule-breaking, road-dominating, chrome-laden marvel that stood the test of time. It had the looks, power, and longevity to outlast trends, competitors, and even some of its own riders. The Kawasaki Vulcan VN700A wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement. These are the 7 legendary 80s motorcycles you never knew about. Did we miss a bike that deserves a spot on this list? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more motorcycle content, and as always, ride safe. See you in the next one.